Welcome, Cantonia, to another edition of the John Report on YouTube. I'm David Kay, and today we're going to talk about the Elimination Chamber, Monday Night Raw, and all the happenings in the world of the WWE with the main eventer, John Canton.
Hey everybody, how's it going? It's been a long day. I watched Elimination Chamber early in the morning because I didn't watch it live on Sunday night, and then I watched Raw tonight and I wrote about it live, so a lot of WWE viewing for me in a day. That's 5 hours right there, and lots of writing, but it's worth it in the end. It keeps my interest, and they're both good for different reasons, as we'll get to.
Well, yeah, let's start about that. I mean, Elimination Chamber was a very good pay-per-view. Unfortunately, it's probably not going to get a whole lot of buys because it was up against the All-Star Game, which got a ton of views. But what do you think really stood out from the Elimination Chamber, and what clicked and what didn't for you?
Yeah, the NBA All-Star Game did, I think, 10 million viewers or something, the highest since Michael Jordan's last one with the Bulls in '98, so it's pretty solid. And so it did hurt probably the factor that it was a predictable pay-per-view. Like, I got perfect on my preview, and you only got one wrong because you picked Orton just to be different, right? So,
yep.
I mean, it was a very predictable show, but as I wrote in my write-up, I don't think being predictable is a bad thing. I'd rather have a predictable show with strong wrestling matches from top to bottom than have one that's unpredictable with only, one or two good matches and or like crappy wrestling, basically TNA. And
there's a shot.
So I'd rather watch a show where, when I know the outcome, it doesn't hurt that bad. You know what I mean? Like if you watch a movie, the good guy's gonna win in the end. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It doesn't really hurt the story if the story told well. You shouldn't really mind it. But I know some people are different. But that's just my way, just from being a wrestling fan, because everything's predictable in wrestling, right? You know the good guy's gonna go over, or in some cases, because we knew what was gonna happen at WrestleMania, so you knew certain guys had to win certain matches. But I don't think it hurt your favorite. Did you think it hurt that it was predictable?
No, not at all. I think the real big story coming out of it was, the way you have to look at it is you don't have to look at every match as being a 5-star quality match. I mean, that's not going to happen every match. What you want to look for at a pay-per-view is you want to look for a build. You want the first match to do something for you and then build off of each match going through the night. This night had a couple hiccups. That's why it wasn't a perfect show. But in the end, everything seemed to be building perfectly towards the ending. And, I mean, my emotions were in it. I was willing to watch it. I invested time rather than just skipping through it like I would on a normal pay-per-view, to be honest with you. But it did a really good job of that. I mean, a really good job of building my interest and having enough promos in between the matches, and the matches were well done. I mean, it did everything well for me.
Yeah, I mean, I gave it an 8 out of 10. I mean, we got two 30-minute matches featuring a lot of big names. You had the SmackDown match, which was for the title, and then you had the Raw match, which is the number one contender for the title. So, I mean, those were really big matches, and then the rest of the card was okay, but, I mean, those two matches were the headline, and they're the ones that carried the show, and they worked. And then I got to give major props to the SmackDown match, especially. I gave it 4.5 stars out of 5. That's a really high rating. That's going to be hard to come up with someone on top that this year. I don't know. It might happen. You never know. I tend to like singles matches more, but that Elimination Chamber was as good as any Elimination Chamber there's been. The last 10 minutes with Edge and Ray was incredible. Lots of kicks out, a lot of kicking out, a lot of near falls, and I thought Ray might win at the end because they put him over. He was taking bumps and coming back like crazy. He went head first into the pod at one point. And I was like, holy shit, that looked like a painful bump. And I mean, even when he went back first into it and didn't break, like that probably hurts more than if it actually broke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ray really carried that match. And Edge did a really, really good job too, but Ray was incredible in it. And then Drew was good in his spot that they gave him. I thought he should have got a pinfall or something, but it still worked, and it made Edge look like $1 million. And then at the end, Christian came back and attacked Del Rio, who attacked Edge, and I was just marking out like crazy. And I knew it was going to happen too because people were telling me because I watched it later. But you know what I mean? Like, it still worked. Everything flowed perfect. I love that whole match and the post-match, everything. It was really well booked.
Yep. The only problem I had with any of it was the John Morrison spot, which everyone's been ranting and raving about how awesome it was. To me, it kind of killed Morrison's momentum. As much as I'm going to start getting hate from this, this is what I'm saying about it. Jeff Hardy was held back for so many years because all he was a high flying guy. You know, he didn't have a whole lot of charisma and everything,
Yeah.
and that was really the only spot that he had throughout the entire match. They're building up Morrison's parkour and all that stuff. Instead of him being a strong worker or having strong moves, he had the one move throughout the night, and then that was it. I really wish they had done something with him to make him more of a viable wrestler or performer to, you know, kind of push him more into that main event status rather than give him the one spot and then end it like that. I just think that killed his momentum as far as being in the hunt for a world title or anything like that.
Yeah, I see what you mean. They're making him into the high spot guy, whereas he's a more rounded wrestler than a guy like Jeff Hardy probably is too. Not necessarily saying he's better than Jeff Hardy. I'm just saying, you know, in terms of spots, Jeff was really good at them, and he was more spot based than John Morrison is. John Morrison has a pretty good ground game also. So I do see what you're saying, but on the other hand, it does separate him from the pack because he does have that athleticism. So it makes him stand out a little bit more. So I don't mind accentuating that. But like you said, though, like they could have maybe done a little bit more with him.
Yeah. But all in all, I think everyone there got a great night of wrestling, especially since the dark match was DiBiase versus Daniel Bryant. So, I mean, you had to be pretty excited about that match throughout of it. Although I did hear reports of people who were kind of blacked out during the Christian run-in because of people trying to repair the pods. But all in all, other than that, you had to be a great viewing experience for everybody out on the West Coast who came to that show.
I had a lot of people complaining about Cena winning, but I just said, you know, who did you expect to win? Did you expect anything else? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, you know, a lot of people say, okay, maybe John Morrison should have won, but if they weren't going to put him against The Miz at the Rumble, if they weren't going to put him against The Miz at the Elimination Chamber, do you think they're really going to put him against The Miz at WrestleMania? It's not going to happen. So, as much as I like John Morrison, it's not his time yet.
No.
Maybe later in the summer, maybe put him in Money in the Bank. Frankly, I hope CM Punk gets the title after Cena, and then CM Punk is the one that puts over John Morrison for that belt because he'd be the best guy to do it.
Yeah.
So,
well,
I could wait for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that you'd want to build towards rather than out of nowhere give him a title and turn into Jack Swagger a month later.
Yeah, and I got to give credit to Jerry Lawler too. He worked his ass off for 61 years old. He really brought it to Miz, and the crowd was believable, and they really wanted him to win. Like, you could sense they really wanted that title change, and it didn't happen, but it didn't hurt the match at all either. So
yeah, you knew me going in. I said I was going to hate it. There was nothing good that could come out of it, but I think they told a good story. I think it really was a good match. I wished it would have gone earlier. I think it would. I would have liked it a little more if it maybe had started off. Only because I think it slowed down the momentum of everything at the time. But it did well. I mean, it did a lot better than I thought it would be because I thought it was going to kill the momentum of Miz and kind of go nowhere with it. So I was real happy with that. Which of the Elimination Chambers did you like?
Lawler.
Oh,
sorry,
go ahead.
I was just going to say Lawler knows a lot of little tricks, so he keeps the matches interesting. He knows, the right time to keep it going. That's something you can't teach. Well, you can teach, you know what I mean? But you learn it with experience. Like, he's been in so many matches that you just learn it so much. He knows all the little things and how it works.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of value in him like that, but you can't push him too much. So.
Yeah. Well, what did you think of the Elimination Chambers as far as which one had the better one? I mean, obviously you knew that Cena was going to win the one and Edge was probably going to win the other. But which did you end up liking more in the end?
Well, I gave the SmackDown one 4.5 stars. Like I said, the Ray Edge sequence was really one of the best final sequences in the history of Elimination Chamber matches. They got 10 minutes by themselves. They did a good job of it because Kane knocked both guys out with choke slams at the same time after he got eliminated. So it made it like even, and then each guy, was hitting all their big finish. And then Edge spears him off the top rope. That was incredible. Yeah. So, perfect timing from two veterans that have been there before and know each other really well. And then the Raw match, I gave 4 stars out of 5. Really, really good. And Punk was incredible. I thought he was the star of the match.
Oh, yeah.
And Morrison also. Like, people complain about Cena, but he only pinned one guy. Punk was the one that pinned multiple guys. And Orton didn't really shine that much. They did the one spot where they had Punk was in the pod and he couldn't get out and stuff, and then he got reinstated back in the match, and that was interesting. But, I thought I didn't think it hurt the match at all. I thought it added to Punk's heel character. Maybe the GM's a heel. You never know, right? So it worked, and I just thought, well done match. And of course, R-Truth didn't deserve to be in there, and he was gone in about 2 minutes. I wonder if that's punishment for the Milwaukee thing, or that was the plan from the beginning. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I didn't really miss him. And Sheamus seems to be going on a downward spiral, as we'll talk about when we get to Raw.
Well, yeah. Were there any other things that shined? I mean, what did you think of the Trish stuff? As far as now, be objective here, because I know that we're going to get 1,000 comments about how you're loving Trish and whatnot. But be objective here. What did you think of her impact on this show, as far as a viewer's point of view?
If it was live, I would have reacted very favorably. I'm just always been a fan of Trish Stratus. I think a lot of people are fans of her, but I guess for me, because being a Canadian and she's also Greek and I'm also Greek, so it's kind of like, okay, she's like part of my people, you know what I mean? And I knew she was, like, just before she was in WWE, she was on Canadian talk shows all the time talking about being a WWE fan. She was actually a regular on a radio show talking about WWE, all this kind of stuff. So she grew up a fan of the business, and so, in addition to her being hot, there's a lot of respect for her. So, and then now her career after wrestling, she's got her own yoga studio that's really, really successful. She's done TV. She's in some movie coming out, and she's done a lot for us.
Yep.
So she's a hardworking person, so there's a lot of respect for that. So when she comes out there, people were going crazy, but they didn't go crazy as I thought. I guess maybe Oakland's not the place for it. And then she comes out in heels, and she kind of screwed up a spot when the women were fighting later. But when she was in the ring with Booker T doing the dialogue, it was just badly written. I just didn't think it was very well done. And, like, her strength wasn't always talking. Like, she's okay talker, but she wasn't an amazing talker.
Right.
So it was one of those things where they gave her this dialogue to say, and maybe it sounded good on paper, but it didn't turn out that great in execution. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think Booker helped that situation at all.
No, but I think as far as Tough Enough goes, she's going to be, good to watch on the show because I think she'll be really honest and fair with people.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, you got Booker, Austin, Trish Stratus, and the other one actually they announced today is Bill DeMott, a.k.a. Hugh Morris.
I love Bill DeMott.
Yeah, he's done a lot of training before, so he'll probably do a lot of the legwork. He probably won't get as much TV time as the other three, but he'll probably do a lot of work with the students. So it should be interesting, Tough Enough.
All right.
But thumbs up for Elimination Chamber, 8 out of 10.
All right. Well, that's the end of what we're going to say about Elimination Chamber. It was a good night. We're going to head over to our second video. Make sure you click on that one. We're going to talk more about Raw, so definitely click right over to that. This is the first part, and we'll just end it right there.